Welcome back to Morning Ireland. Well, the reopening of the country's schools is an unprecedented policy and logistical challenge, so said Taoiseach Micheál Martin after the Cabinet signed off yesterday on the roadmap for reopening 4,000 schools to 1 million students and 100,000 staff. The €375 million plan covers the reconfiguration of school buildings and buses, enhanced cleanings, 1,000 extra teachers at post-primary level and panels of substitute teachers. The roadmap has been given a cautious welcome. The ASTI telling this programme today it is concerned that many schools will not be ready on time. Let's talk now to the Education Minister, Norma Foley. Good morning.
Good morning, Carol.
Thanks for joining us. Now, just up to yesterday, I suppose one of the biggest fears that parents had was that there'd be alternated days in schools and that they would have to continue dealing with kids at home. This is not part of this plan. Is homeschooling finished?
Absolutely. The plan that was unfolding yesterday and puts in significant resources and measures means that schools will fully open at the end of August in a safe manner, in a manner that is sustainable and in a way that does not compromise on educational standards. And to be fair, I would have to agree that parents, students and the entire school community, and I would say indeed the entire of society, want schools to reopen fully. And as Minister for Education, I certainly want to see that, and that's what will happen at the end of August, a full and safe reopening of schools.
So homeschooling, it's not part of any contingency plan or anything. This is back to school for good.
This is back to school as normal for our school community, for our all those who work within the school sector and for our students.
Now let's start with the juniors. We're hearing that social distancing isn't required for those up to second class. That's about the age of 9 or 10. But there will be these bubbles. What does that mean? And will there be a limit to the number of children in a bubble?
Well, basically each class will be a bubble, and within the bubble there will be smaller little groupings, or what we are now calling pods, and that's how the social distancing will be managed within the school. So you'll have classes who will be, as I said, bubbles, and then within that you'll have smaller pods, and between the pods within the class then there will be a metre of distance.
And is it realistic to be able to keep kids away from each other for 4 to 5 hours a day, sitting in pods of 5 or 6 when their mates are just across the other side of the class?
Well, I think the public health advice actually acknowledges that, particularly for the younger children, social distancing is not a prerequisite. That's in the public health guidelines. There is an acknowledgement that because of their nature, that would be very difficult to sustain. But it can be and will be sustained in the more senior classes. And it's just, again, to acknowledge that within the public health guidelines, there is a view that really what we're looking for is a balanced, common sense approach to how we operate within the classroom environment. And I have every confidence that the capacity is there, and that the teachers and the SNAs and all those working in the classroom environment have the capacity and the potential to do that, and to do that well.
And just let's talk space now and time, as it were. For many schools, I suppose, physical space is an issue. If a principal comes back to the department, say next Monday, and says, I've looked at this, I've small classrooms, large numbers of students, there's just no way I can do the 1 metre distancing. What will you do?
Well, we already have in place a substantial minor works programme funding of worth over 75 million, really, where we're offering schools the capacity really to go into their classroom spaces and literally declutter them and basically remove all furniture that are not needed, maximise the capacity and the space within the classroom. But we're also affording schools the opportunity to look at other spaces within the school, which might be general purpose areas, assembly areas, and to reimagine how those spaces could be used to meet the needs of classes at a given time. So I have confidence that schools will have the potential, and they certainly have the financial resources, to reimagine and to reconfigure space as it's required.
And the ASTI telling us here this morning that it's not confident that schools would be ready for a proposed opening day at the end of August or September. Can principals stagger openings?
Well, I suppose in the first instance I would say, look, I have worked in the education sector all my life. I know how resourceful principals and management and all those who work in the school environment are. And I have every confidence. For example, the minor work scheme is a scheme that is very familiar already and up and running in the primary schools. It's a new but similar scheme for second level. So in terms of the reopening will be as normal at the end of August, early September as as designed by schools in the past. There is always within schools a latitude to decide what exactly will be their opening day, whether it's the 27th of August or the 25th of August or the 1st of September. That latitude within a couple of days still remains. But in the main, what I am saying is that schools will open as normal at the end of August, early September.
And just in terms of implementing the roadmap as well, will schools have latitude? There is no mandate saying that you must do this exactly this way, or is there?
Well, there is an acknowledgement that schools must have autonomy to meet the needs that are on the ground. No two schools are going to be the same, so that's why there is latitude, for example, within the Minor Works Grant as to how they will reconfigure space, as to how they will manage space and classes within their own environment, because, as I say, no two schools will have the same challenges or the same needs.
Now, substitute panels are to be put in place around the country. What more can you tell us about this? And will teachers in panels be working in more than one school?
Yeah, the substitute panels for primary schools have been very successfully piloted over 6 different locations in the past year, and indeed it has been acknowledged widely, including by the INTO, that this has been a very, very positive success. So what we're actually doing now is on a nationwide basis rolling out the substitute panels, which will mean that teachers will have a full year-long contract on these panels to make themselves available in schools.
But will they have to go to more than one school, say School A on a Monday
indeed.
And School B on a Tuesday? They will.
Exactly. They will be shared amongst a small number of schools within a particular location.
Is that not risky, given that the disease is still with us, COVID-19 is still with us? Is it not risky for teachers to be moving from school to school?
Well, it will be on a very, very limited basis. And, the operation in school will always be the situation where a member of staff has to take leave, a member of staff is sick or whatever, and they will have to be replaced. That's the nature of education. You cannot leave children or young people go unsupervised. So provision has to be made for supervision of that nature. But it will be within a small number of schools, and it will be very minimal.
So small number being 2 or 3?
Exactly. It depends on the needs in the area. Different areas will have different needs, but it will be a very small panel.
And can I just ask you about the 1,080 extra teachers at post-primary level? Where are they going to come from?
Just in the first instance to say that 1,080 posts include the 120 guidance counsellor posts, which now will mean the full restoration of guidance counsellor services. And I particularly want to acknowledge that because you will have noted from the roadmap, there is significant emphasis being put on well-being, and we also have the employment of an additional substantial number of NEP psychologists as well. But as regards how the 1,000 posts will be sourced, there's a variety of pools or strands, if you like, as to how they can be sourced. We have currently, for example, 1,300 teachers who are job sharing in post-primary schools. For the first time, we will lift the limit on the number of hours that job sharers can do. So these are teachers who are already working in the school sector and they can work additional hours. There's also more than 2,000 post-primary teachers who are registered to teach but for a variety of reasons are not teaching, might be on job share or whatever they're doing. They will also be a resource. We have teachers who are newly qualified and trained in the UK, over 300 this year alone.
Can you get them in 4 weeks' time? Will they be in place in 4 weeks' time, or might they be delayed?
Well, I have every confidence that they can be in place in time within the next number of weeks. As I say, many of them are already working in the teaching environment, those who are working part-time or whatever. So every opportunity, many of the principals will already know who their potential additional hours will come from. So the availability is there, and we're looking at a wide range of opportunities for people to draw on pools, really, that will support the 1,000 posts,
now,
which actually is very, very good news for second-level schools.
The 375 million, it's a lot more than what was originally mentioned, 200 million. Did you underestimate the size of this challenge?
No, not at any stage. I think the 375 million plus is an acknowledgement really of the significance of education, and it's an endorsement of the education sector. All of us in the education sector, and as I've said earlier, the widest realm of society wants schools to operate. For schools to operate, it's a confidence boost for the economy. It's a return to normality for us, and every precaution that needs to be taken to ensure that our students and our school community are working in a safe environment is being put in place, and hence the cost. So everything from staffing to cleaning to transport.
Indeed. Will this money stay in place? Will this stay in place regardless of the path of the virus? Say if the RNUM were to continue going down, is this money committed and will stay in place?
Yes, this is the money that is committed for the schools for this academic year. I think it's important that we would be seen to have covered all options in terms of the supports that are needed from a staffing point of view, the supports that are needed from a cleaning point of view, and all of that. It breeds confidence, I think, for all who work in the community of teaching, and indeed most especially for the children that we serve and the young people that we serve in the education sector.
Very good. And Minister, just before I let you go, there has been huge public reaction and concern over this decision to stop the pandemic unemployment payment to those travelling abroad on holidays in defiance of government guidelines. Where did this come from? Was that brought to Cabinet at any point?
Well, I suppose in the first instance, the PUP payment was brought in really as a measure to ensure that we could all abide by public health advice.
But was the change notified to Cabinet?
No, I'm not aware of it having been brought to Cabinet.
It didn't come when you were there. And also ministers getting a pay rise, but some of the papers saying today it's not really a pay rise. What's the story there?
Well, all I'm aware of is the 10% cut that ministers have agreed to take on their...
Sorry, a pay cut, excuse me, yes.
The 10% pay cut that ministers are taking at their salary. And indeed, there will be the further opportunity in October where there will be the 2% increase, and ministers will not be taking that either. It's an acknowledgement that we are living in extraordinary times and in very difficult times.
Okay.
And that's the reason for the 10% pay cut.
Education Minister Norma Foley, thank you very much for joining us. 27 minutes past 8.
And let's go back now to the pandemic unemployment payment, because since Sunday the government has been on the back foot over the decision to cut that payment for people who go abroad on holidays. This follows a report in the Sunday Business Post that 104 people had the payment suspended. The Taoiseach and the Minister for Social Protection have both defended the decision, which it now seems applies to anyone receiving unemployment benefit of any kind.